You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello and welcome to Split Your Head. I'm your host Bob, and today's special guest is SamHel, a prolific underground extreme horror director whose name I could not escape the past few years. Whether it's through his vast output of fetish gore films, his Baroque house and bizarre theater labels, or his new festival series, A Baroque Film Fest, SamHel seems to be a wildly creative artist who does not sleep, while also giving back to the community of horror and underground filmmakers. So with all of his art and all of his help, I desperately needed to get him on so I could pick his brain. Sam, when do you sleep?
Late at night. I usually, for maybe around midnight or 1, put my kids down, and then I still have like 2 to 3 hours to hang out. So, and then I go to sleep around midnight or 1, and then wake up like at 7 or 8.
Yeah, it just, you have so much work out that you're one of those people that I'm just like, how do you do it, you know? And that's something that's almost like a recurring theme of the show. I love to get people on that just seem like they don't sleep and they just keep churning out as many films as possible. So yeah, we'll get right into it. Like, what got you into making fetish gore films?
I think I kind of just fell into that. I kind of started doing like backyard, no budget slasher things, and they sort of people, just like another kid coming trying to do their film stuff. And then as like time progressed and I kind of got out of my religious lock-ins, I would say, I decided to kind of do things that were more of interest and more of the films I found when I was like just getting into like independent films and was like reading parental guidance stuff on IMDb or just like articles about films I could find, like Tumbling Doll of Flesh or some of the Japan fetish films that have like movie theatrical themes to them, that I wanted to do something like that. So I kind of started coming up with my own ideas with thick homages to that stuff. So I would say I did like a couple years of just doing slashers and like the fake snuff type things, and then it kind of progressed into doing some adults and then fetish, and then people that I started using were in that lane. So I was like, cool. So then it just kind of kept going because those were like the ones that people weren't doing as much. There was only a few people doing it, so I kind of like felt that like, okay, this is something different. So I just fell in that way.
Yeah, definitely. So you were doing these films before 2017 then, these like slasher films, backyard slasher, fake snuff films, is that right, timeline wise?
Yeah, so I graduated high school in 2013. I think I did my first short film the end of that year, or maybe like first short film that I did on my own, that I wrote, that I casted, that I shot, and then put onto disc and out around 2013, 2014. And then did a couple projects, and then I think I took like a year off and then came back with a Baroque house under a different name in like end of 2018. So like it was learning and then doing like what I consider like uh, school shoots or stuff he would do for school, and like then transitioned into something that's more like production. Like I can kind of scale this up type of thing in around 2018. So I did like 4 years of like random shorts, trying to do features and doing stuff with people I grew up with, and um, yeah, then I just transitioned into that around 2018.
Right. So then the films that you were doing before, was that under your real name? And then the films that you started doing after was now under Sam Hell, which I believe it's an alias, right?
Yeah, I mean everything's kind of tied to like my like what is the word? It's kind of like a mix of words, a mix of names associated to like my real name. Before it was like shorts from like A Baez, and then I dropped that, and then it was like say I started using my middle name, and then as it got more extreme, I was talking to some guys that shoot similar content from like the 90s, and they're like that's not their names when they directed that. They're like, yeah, you should go with that unless like they're trying to make a career out of it, then probably not. So I went with the alias, and then
Mm.
it started to become like more of a career, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm stuck with SamHel.
It's a memorable alias, so I think it's cool, you know. And when I was googling it, I found I think like a Bandcamp artist that also uses the same name. Have you come across them before?
Not I know there's Sam Hill, which is Cage the rapper, that his like a other alias is like Sam Hill. And that I was listening to a
Okay.
lot of Cage, so I was like, oh, Sam Hill. And then like what in the Sam Hell, as in like you're watching something very bizarre or messed up, and then I was like, well, I'm not gonna do Sam Hell, I'll just do like one word, one L. And I was like, there it goes. Artistic.
Yeah, yeah. It's stylized, yeah. So you were saying that you got advice from these directors. So were there specific directors then that influenced you?
Yeah, so for like those ones, I was a big fan of Necro, the short film, and Don't Go in the Fucking Woods, and Six Pack That Bitch, which is short films from the In Hell production group, which is Vince Roth and Mick Nards. And they're the ones
Okay.
that I also was like, oh, you could do this like sort of on your own. Like these things are graphic and extreme, and they're using like their girlfriends
Mm.
that were like strippers, that like to do these like crazy productions, and then they're like really well done for being like no budget stuff. So, and then I that ended up clicking with them when they lived in Los Angeles, and they're like, yeah, you kind of like we're not like upset or don't like these films. It's just like they're very graphic and we're older and like we moved on with our life type of thing. And it's like you don't want like I guess those
Ah,
films trailing you into your thing, even though like now I guess some people can just figure out I guess my legal names and stuff like that. But I've been doing this for like over a decade, so it's like I don't really see myself
right.
leaving. It's the only thing that pays me. So
Yeah, well, I mean, you've managed to kind of like move into working with other extreme horror directors, and like from what I understand, you were working on guinea pigs, American guinea pigs, Slaughter of the Swine, right?
yeah, that was maybe a couple months or a year after Steven, who owns Unearth, moved to LA, and he likes to have like a crew, people he trusts. So I was somebody that he called for camera, and then I was co-camera,
Cool.
and then it turned into just being fully camera, and then I did the pickups as well. So then I ended up shooting it all and doing all the extras. I did like a full hour behind the scenes for that. So when it comes out, there's like an hour making of. Um, but yeah, the
Right.
latest one that's coming out, yeah, I was able to do camera on that one.
Sick. Well, I because I tried to look it up to see if your credits were there. It's not on IMDb right now.
Yeah,
And I think on Letterbox they didn't have like the full credits or anything, but is that basically like by Sam Hell in terms like cinematography by Sam Hell?
yeah, I think it's like director of photography, SamHel. Um, and
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah, they haven't added. I think Steven adds it when it's out and about. Like it's when it hits like you can buy it now. Like I think that's when he throws it onto IMDb. There hasn't been many. My film fest was the first time to show it, and then we showed it in Pennsylvania with Bruce Longo's event that he was doing with Victor Bonacor's film. I because
Mm.
Victor edited parts of it and a lot of it, and then I was like, why don't you just show the movie? I mean, he edited it, and then like so they showed it in Pennsylvania, and then
Yeah.
I think it's Spain next, and then Paris, and then I'm trying to get like San Francisco and stuff like that. So not that many people have seen it, so I understand that Letterbox is like not going to be popping right now.
Oh no, I think there are some reviews. It just was in terms of the credits
Oh, really?
because when I was looking up Sam Hell on Letterboxd, I went down to cinematography and it only showed your own films. So they haven't, I guess, put the entire crew. But as you say, that's something that's going to happen once it's fully released and everything. So yeah, have you shot
Yeah.
anything else by anyone else?
There's been a few. I Another one coming out. I did the tail end of shooting of the documentary on Roz Williams. That's coming from Cult Epics.
Oh, cool.
I Yeah, I did some of the interviews for that. I shot some of the events that they did in tribute for his birthday or his death date or something like that. We did in LA, and
Yeah.
some other stuff I shot, and then I was like scanning things, and then I did some other stuff related to the documentary, but that's another one that's coming out. I shot some scenes from like Amityville apartment. I'm trying to think of
Okay.
some other ones.
Cool.
Some adult projects that for like some studios and then stuff like that. Trying to think of some other ones, but yeah, that's mainly the big two were the guinea pig and the Roz Williams doc.
That was something I was curious about because, from watching the films, the screeners that you sent me, like there is a very strong, like obviously like hardcore porn aspect to them. I was curious whether you've worked in just straight up adult film at all. Like if you've made some films, like you've directed some of these films yourself, or if you've just shot them or worked on them. Like, have you dabbled in just like, adult video without any horror aspect at all?
Yeah, actually, my site has Pink Material Pictures, which is just an adults production site. So I'll uh,
Mm.
dabble in that, and it's mainly like either narrative. So like it may not have horror or horror themes, but there's like, or most times there's a narrative aspect to it. So it's like they'll do a full story, and then in between where like the scenes happen is like the hardcore parts, stuff like that. Like more like roughies, stuff like that, but those are more like exploitation or stuff like that. But yeah,
Mm.
I've done that, and then I've shot for some companies. I'm trying to remember, but yeah, I've worked some cameras, and I've worked for friends that are like do their own content, and they just want like camera operations. They don't want like set up their phone or something like that. And I was like, oh, I can do it, and then I'll just edit it for them, and that's some pay sometimes. So it's like, yeah, I have shot some adult stuff, and I have the label too. I think the
Cool.
last one I did was Tales of Bound and Restrained, which is like a three segments look into shibari and bondage. So it was like three different people
Mm.
tying three different people with different themes. So that was the last one.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Was that something that you ever thought you'd get yourself into though? Like when you were starting out making these like more backyard horror films?
No, not really. I mean, I like the horror aspect. I even got in trouble from like my volunteership and like helping people with just the horror film. So like diving any deeper, I was like, that's the whole thing with the Alias too. I was like, that's just gonna throw like a wrench into everything. So Um, I didn't, and being that I grew up in a religious household, that was always taboo. So I had no idea about it, or I was very much in uh, a lesser, or I guess more heightened security over stuff like that. And then I kind of grew up and had a decision to like, do I want to keep doing this? Do I believe in this and that? And I kind of like swapped over to be. Uh, swapped over to like doing things of films that I found when I first came into like that community, or finding independent indie films, and they were more catered towards fetish or adults. So I was like, I always want to do like my own versions of that. And uh I kind of again fell into it because like just all the dominoes lined up, and I was like, oh, people, there's interest in it, and there's not many people doing it at the time. So I think there's like two. So yeah, it was more of
Yeah.
like finding that and experience it like for the first time. So my first experience would be like jumping into production.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, no, I think one of the first times I heard about you was when Jonathan Doe interviewed you on his podcast, and that was really interesting to me. I maybe I'm misremembering this, but were you still religious at that time? Like there was a period when you were making these films when religion was still pretty strong in your life. Is that right?
Well, religion's still strong in my life. I just don't consider myself a Christian related, as in with everything, or a lot of group of people who say Christians are this way. You get kind of lumped into, oh, so you're against that, you're against this, you don't like these people, you don't like that people. And I'm like, no, I'm just more of like, I read the Bible and like follow teachings that are like I feel correlate, and do some things that other major religious people do, like, cherry pick. I'm sure I cherry pick sometimes too, and they don't exactly match up with like verses and teachings. But not in the way of like I'm gonna start like, you know, distancing myself from people who are into horror and extreme and adult films. I was more doing that at the beginning, and then it became more of like tolerance, and then more into like, okay, like what is the big bad in this actually? And so during that interview, I was
Hmm.
just starting that, and uh, it was like Red Tragedy and Spit were done or something like that. Like the first three short films I did were done, and I think maybe even the I Cut Your
Okay.
Flesh documentary. So like there was some aspect of newness to it still. So I wasn't in it, but I still had like reservations about like, do I really want to shoot this? Like does it fall in line with who I am, or does it fall in line with like sort of what I was like taught? Um, so yes and no in a
Mm.
way.
Yeah. Well, that sounds really exciting to me, as an artist getting to make something that is challenging to you but without actually like having to exploit anyone or challenge anyone else. It's almost like more like internally challenging, you know?
Yeah, because I think a lot of the people that were in those shorts have been doing their thing for years already. So like when I was getting them for shorts,
Mhm.
it's like the talent in it was like doing fetishism for videos already for the last, like maybe from 3 years prior, and so on. And I just kind of got more into like um, my understanding of it, and that was like, I guess, the journey of like figuring that out, just starting an adult production, what do I have to do and stuff like that. So um I was like the only newbie. So
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's
yeah.
cool. Yeah, it's almost like they had to make you feel comfortable, which you don't really hear a lot about. It's usually the other way around, right? Like the director has to make the performers feel comfortable with their ideas and everything.
Yeah, I think it's more of the fact of like ED6, who's the first talent that was in those type of projects. I think it was more on the basis of just like trust and knowing who I actually am, rather than just like I'm some random dude with a camera. You want to shoot something, and like we became friends, and I was like, this is sort of like I did something similar, but this is kind of like taking it from like a 7 to an 8 to like a 10. Like, so there was that understanding of like, this is the first project I'm doing like this. So like, is that okay? Is this like, what are you okay with?
Wow.
What are you not okay with? And then they kind of had to like, I didn't necessarily think they guided me. It was just more of an understanding that like, oh, this is the first production in this route for him. So like, obviously, if there's lack of something, it's just because he probably doesn't know, or does hasn't figured out or something like that. So I think there was some lenience with me rather than teaching me, because I tend to kind of
Mm.
uh I don't know, try to get everything as clean or as foolproof or as whatever you want to call it, just uh, straightforward before I go into production, so I don't really have any bumps to jump over or hurdles to like overcome. So I think they understood that I was just
Sure.
trying things out to make sure, like, oh, does it work? Is it cool? Like, if it's just these three short films, like, okay, and then it kind of just overnight
Yeah.
getting into books and like
Oh, cool.
wanting to do podcasts
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because like of the screeners you sent me, there was like Green Hell, which was like 2018, right?
Yeah, I think 2019. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I think the only short in 2018 was Red Tragedy.
okay. So Green Hell to Disfigured Perception, there's like a good 5 or 6 year gap between those. And it's interesting seeing like what's changed over that course of time and how like Green Hell felt like way more of a pronounced horror film. Like it felt like you're making a horror film and it's got hardcore elements to it. Whereas Disfigured Perception dove way more into the sexuality and everything. So you're explaining this now, and it kind of makes a lot of sense to me that like, yeah, it took you time to kind of like embrace that aspect more, and like maybe you were hiding a bit more behind horror in the beginning. Is that kind of like a fair assessment?
Sort of. I think yes, and I think the only thing is that I don't like I usually have the talent control the content that they want to do. So it wasn't on the basis of like, oh, I want to do like a boy girl scene and I want this horror film to have a little bit more like an adult aspect. So let me go find people. It was more of like they're interested in being in this project. What do they like or already do that I can incorporate into the project? And as we got further along, I met more people that are in the industry. I learned more about it. I learned how to shoot. I learned contracts. I learned all this stuff. And then with that came people that were like more higher in the industry, like people that won like AVN awards or they star in like narrative features that have like $50,000 or $100,000 behind it. And they see the
Oh wow.
horror element and they kind of come in, and then I'm like, well, what do you do? And then sometimes like they're like, well, I'm cool with this and I'm cool with that, and that kind of leads into like more graphic or hardcore aspects to it. Hence why, like, if you've probably seen some interviews or like some stuff of mine where it's uh like the early shorts, there was a lot of girls that had like they don't shave because their stuff is their content that sells is like hairy dominant type things. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to tell you to do something for something that is going to pay you less than a video from some dude who wants a custom. Like, I'm not going to tell you to shave, and I'm taking away like a financial aspect for yourself. So I can get something that looks the way I want. I just
Mm.
kind of molded everything that kind of came in front of me in a way, if that makes sense. So Disfigured was way more
Totally.
graphic because I was able to mold with what I had rather than try to make something, I guess, in the realm that I want. So that, I guess that's the difference, is
Yeah.
that I don't try to achieve it. It's just like I write a script and then the people that are interested, I incorporate what they do, and it tends to be a little bit more graphic from person to person or less graphic from person to person.
Yeah, yeah. Fair. Has anyone like any of the performers approached you with an idea that like you felt uncomfortable about incorporating?
There's like been some aspects with some people that like have brought up things and I'm like I'm not into that, and like I don't know where I could like show that, and like the blood and gore is already hard enough. So like adding like uh I don't know, like I think one of them was like scat. Like, and I'm like, I don't want to clean that
Okay.
up and I don't want to be like around it. And like, that's cool that you want to do it, but
Yeah.
like, there's no real, like, seems to kind of become shock for shock focused. And I'm like bordering that line. And that's kind of like, and I'm
Right.
like, all right, never mind. Like, I've had to tone some stuff down. Like, uh, some
Mm,
talent that like to be actually hit, and I'm like, yeah, we're not actually gonna hit you.
okay.
Like we're not doing that. I
Okay.
one production I was gonna shoot, the talent reached out to me and I came up with an idea, and then I think she either thought that I was also like another talent that shoots the films and like I'm a part of it, and I'm not just like directing and
Mm,
behind the camera. So it was like, yeah, so a lot of the story I have has a lot of like, choking and hitting, and I was like, do you want me to like find somebody you're comfortable with to do that? Or and then I think she realized then that like, oh, you don't do that. Like that's not like I'm like, no, I'm just behind the camera and write stuff and like do effects and
yeah.
stuff like that. Like I don't do that. So it's been that kind of like collapsing within itself. So there's like aspects of that where it's like I have to like again be straightforward and kind of set up this fine line production so people can understand what we're doing and not get lost or feel uncomfortable and stuff like that. And that got kind of that collapsed before we even went into like, well, this is the script. Like, so like, there's aspects of that where I've had to,
Yeah. Yeah.
pull back a bit.
Yeah. I mean, you have to draw your line somewhere, and at the end of the day, like you are making, even though it has unsimulated sex, it is like fictional content. So yeah, I mean, especially with the gore, is obviously not real. So you have to draw
Yeah,
those boundaries.
yeah, I think that's it. I mean, a lot of it is, yeah, unsimulated. Some aspects when we don't have to shoot it, like I'm just shooting a reaction. Like I'll tell them you don't have to just fake it or something like that. So yeah, there's aspects of things that I
Yeah.
have to focus on.
So the thing I'm curious. Oh wow, a bird. The thing I'm curious about, I'm not even sure how to ask this, but I think it's what fascinates me about your films. It's also kind of tied into like pink films and really more just like who would you say is the audience that you're intending this for? Is this like I know with a pink film, right? These were films that were made for theaters where people were supposed to be titillated like it was porn, but a lot of these directors took that as an opportunity to make a film that they were trying to say something with, and give people a different experience. With your films, because you come from horror, like, are these films intended to just scare people, or are you trying to, like, for lack of a better way of putting it, turn them on, or is it both, or either or? Like, do you have those kind of definitions?
Uh, I think the films are more for people that like seen August Underground, seen a Serbian film, maybe dabbled in like some of the more like extreme, like the French Extremity of Irreversible and Martyrs and High Tension and stuff, where it's like gore and like kind of like perverse acts. And then my thing is more on the basis of like, especially being in the U.S. American, like there's something here that is like violence and gore is tolerated and like it's like it's on the news, it's this and that, but nudity isn't, which kind of doesn't make any sense to me. It's very
Mm,
naturalistic based, but yet some people find it very uncomfortable to deal with, very uncomfortable to be around, and I think I just use it to make people uncomfortable. Um, uh,
mm,
Even some people who are like into like the most hardcore gore movies, once you add like something sexual or something graphic, that's the tipping point. Um, and I kind of hence why I kind of like use it in a 50-50 way where it's like 50% horror or 50% exploitation or 50% like drama and then 50% adults. I try to always keep it on those films 50-50 so people can like get the gist of it, I guess, and understand that it's not
hmm.
it's like its own thing in a in a way. But yeah, I guess the pink films and like Ruffies have that aspect too, but it doesn't really fall in those lines. Like it's kind of an experimental
No, no.
horror type adult thing, and I think it's just for those people looking to find something out of the box, not necessarily more graphic or more disturbing or shocking. I think it's just more of like that's different. Um, like I can
Yeah,
show some of these films in maybe like an art gallery, so like um, and they would
true.
make sense to be there rather than like a theater. And then some of them are very like oh, that's a horror movie. So I think it's just more people that like, oh yeah, I've seen like the worst, I've seen like the best. Like I just want to see something that's like what like bizarre or strange or like the Freaks type movie where it's like um carny based and like people just look different and like people are just doing
Mm.
different things or like that's horror, they're into horror but that's not really horror, like just the weird like cults, Richard Kern liking people, Kenneth Anger type things where you can't really
Yeah, totally.
pin, it has a little bit of everything, so I think it's just people that are curious. I don't really think it has a fan base. I think it's just
Yeah.
curious people.
No, well said. That leads me to asking then, like, so because you use a lot of adult performers, people that are more used to like making adult content, what are their reactions then when you're inviting them to make these films that aren't necessarily for that purpose?
uh Mainly in the beginning, it was hard to kind of explain that idea, but as I show them examples, they kind of either fall in like that's exactly what like I'm trying to like get into, or that's not really what I thought this was, and then it usually ends there. Um, I think
Oh,
for
okay.
them, it's like they're doing something already in their career, their jobs, and this is something different. Um, it also
Yeah.
kind of forces some of them to like do things they're not comfortable with, like remembering dialogue or like
Mm.
don't look at the camera. Like the camera's not here. Like I
Oh,
know
okay.
that's like
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
had to like do that
Yeah.
where it's like I'm like you're kind of doing what you do in the adults thing, but I'm not here. Like you're not doing it for like the camera. You're doing it because of what happened in the last scene. You're doing it. This happened
Yeah.
because like I have to do that, and I think that is some talent take it as like, oh, another tool in my arsenal or something like that. Or so, I've had some that were like, could I use that film to like uh, show this director that's doing just a horror film and see if I can get into it. And some people use it as like a reel and stuff like that. So I always try to be like you'll get something else out of it in a way. Either like you get cool pictures that like are completely different, or you get to be a part of a film that you can use later and like say like, oh, I did this and this had dialogue in it and this had like story structure. I had to do like I had to like do multiple takes. That is, a lot of people have never done multiple takes. Like I've even directed like adult films that like,
Oh.
hey, let's walk through the door one more time. That didn't really pan out. Oh, I don't like how that, or let me do another angle. A lot of them are just like, we got the walk in, we can move on. We got the you guys talking, we can move on. It's like they're not really used to doing like three, four, or five takes on like speech and like talking or getting different angles.
Mm.
It's always like one fluid documentary type of thing. So I think that is an interest
Yeah.
as well as like some of them are able to like add to their tool belt, I guess you
Yeah,
could
yeah,
say.
yeah. No, for sure. I totally get that. Do you ever show them like, the films that have influenced you? Show them these films as like, here's an example of like what I'm going for? And if so, like what are those films?
Yeah, like for certain projects, like a lot of them, like a character would be an homage to another character or a blend of characters. So like I'll even and I, they don't even necessarily are like graphic movies. Like if I notice a girl has a punk aesthetic or like a gothic like aesthetic, like they wear dark clothing, boots, they're heavily tattooed, they have a like an alternative hairstyle. I'll be like, or I'm thinking the character has that. I'll like be like, I'm looking for like a girl with a dragon tattoo type look. And if they don't know what that is, yeah, I'll send them like
Oh,
this
okay.
is sort of who they look like or what they look like, or if it's very cyberpunk, or like even if I'm trying to like describe a scene, like you're gonna be running and I'm not gonna be filming, I'm just gonna be rattling off photos. Like so it gives it like
Okay.
uh jumpy look, and they're like, I don't really get what you mean by that. Then I'll like show them, I think
Ah,
Pinocchio,
okay.
like 964 Pinocchio, however you want to say it. I don't even
Yeah.
know. Like where there's like weird, like almost like just you could tell the film was shot. It wasn't shot on film. It was shot on video. It was shot by like stills. Like this is what we're doing. So it's like
Right.
And then they're like, oh, okay, so I don't have to really worry. I was like, no, I have to worry about the camera. Like, so stuff like that, I'll kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
show them things, or like this scene is inspired by that scene. That's why your head is kind of bandaged up. And then I'll like show them tumbling doll of flesh of like the girl's head's bandaged up. And this like that's
Yeah.
the homage. Like, so yeah, stuff like that.
Well, I was wondering I was wondering about that with Tumbling Doll of Flesh because you mentioned that earlier, and if you had actually shown the entire film to anyone, because I almost wonder, if it's an actress who's kind of like, I don't know this guy, and then he shows me Tumbling Doll of Flesh, like, does that, you know what I mean? Like, would that make them feel a little like, wait, is he gonna like, what's gonna happen? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no, I get that. No, usually when I do that, we're already like have been talking for a while, and there's
Okay.
some understanding of what the film is, and this is a gore film, and I'm like, there's other films like this, so it's not like the first. And then
Right.
I'll send stills, and then they're like, what still is this from? I'm like, oh, it's from this movie, and then like I'll send a link to the movie, or to the trailer, or I'll hand them like DVDs or something like that to check out. So like they see it, but it's not like out the gate, because that does kind of
Yeah.
I'm not the only person who has probably hit up these talents, and like a girl that's like 95 pounds, and like, I want to make like a horror messed up movie, and this is what it is. And then it's like they see it, it's like some dude who could obviously like keep them captive, and then you're showing them this horror
Mm,
torture movie. Like, it's not really like a professional thing to do. Like, I always try to keep it as professional as talking and like communicating, and then kind of getting a friendship, and then being like, also, this is what like the movie's gonna look like. If you don't like gore or horror, first of all, they probably wouldn't be in the project, but usually all of them are into like, at the most, like they've seen August Underground. At the least, it's like
right.
Rob Zombie's Halloween, or like House of a Thousand Corpses. Like, so there is some like, I understand
Right.
grotesque things, and I just kind of uh by then there's like a friendship developed by the time I said that stuff. So, and I'm usually friends with everybody I shoot with. So, and
Totally.
I'm a person who deals in comfort, and I don't like uncomfortability. So to bring that on is kind of opposite of me. Hopefully that people take what I
Cool.
say
No,
to as the truth.
no, no, I love to hear that. Like that's great, I mean, I think if you're making really uncomfortable art, it's good to hear that you're not making people uncomfortable to make it, and I think that people are more willing to cross these boundaries with you and make extreme art because they trust you. So I'm glad to hear that. For Mana Wolf, which is from what I understand, that's like your newest film. Like what did
Yeah.
you use for references for that? Because like just from seeing the trailers, it looks like you're kind of going for like a horror comedy in a way, which I wouldn't expect from you.
Yeah, I mean, I've done some like horror based stuff in this time frame. Like Let's Stop at the Morgue doesn't have any adult content. There's
Right.
nudity, but it's more like drama, crime thriller with some gore in it. And then like I've done the the found footage, A Whisper, a Scream, and a Cut to Black. And that's found footage mixed in with like dark comedy, and like it has no nudity to my
Oh, okay.
remembrance. Um, and like, so I also want to make stuff that's like I can show in theaters and don't have to jump over the hoops to get it screened or get it picked up or get it this and that. And that's, I think, for my own enjoyment. Um, because I do like horror films, and I do like
Mm.
exploitation films, and I do like dark comedy stuff and dramas. Like, I've done a drama that was about an actor whose dad is famous, and she's trying to make it, but she's slacking off on LA based stuff, just ruining her life trying to be an actor. Um,
Okay.
that's sort of like, I want to do other stuff, and if people like it, cool, like awesome. The stuff that kind of pays for it is the adult horror stuff. So I kind of just
Mm.
flip flop for Mana Wolf. I was trying to remember what I just remember I wanted to do like an occulty cult thing about a pastor who becomes cursed to be a werewolf and then kind of uses it for like his own self benefit. And I wrote a script, and the budget that came in was less than that. So I had to rewrite it, and it was more of
Okay.
like a traveling pastor who comes to LA and meets a girl who feeds him something that has some iteration of him turning him into that, and he just goes on a rampage anytime
Mm.
he hears a sin. So he turns into Man Wolf. So I just kind of wanted to do
Wow.
the campy like backyard filming, and it still kind of looks like a movie. I wanted it more like Trash Humpers, but I kind of
Oh,
went
okay.
a little bit overboard with like angles and shots, and let's do that again, or let's try that again. But there's a lot of improv.
Yeah.
The actors are some of them do have done adult work. Some of them have never been around adult work. But they're like came to LA to be an actor. And my buddy and my audio guy, who's he does horror reviews on YouTube under Nightmare Movies, has brought me like all these really, really, really good actors that are like down for
Oh, cool.
doing outrageous horror movies. And then I kind of bring in my people of like they're down to be killed in this, and they're down to like do the extreme parts or stuff like that. And there's like this world
Okay.
collide. But I'm trying to remember the films that I'm like were influenced by that. But it was a lot of like Trauma and like Carl
Sure.
J.
Yeah.
Suknick type uh films like Alien Beast I wanted to do, and then it just sort of turned into
Oh, okay.
this weird like is he really a werewolf, or is he just like psychotic and puts on a mask? Like there's a lot of like
Okay.
things to play with in it. And yeah, it was more on the basis of just
Ah.
making something completely different. That was more exploitation.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't realize that you've dabbled in comedy before. I think
Yeah.
that's just what I meant was like, oh, like I know I've seen Let's Stop at the Morgue and I really like that. And that was kind of more of like a straightforward horror film. But just
Hmm.
watching the trailer of Man Wolf, I was like, yeah, exactly. It was like it's more campy, which I never thought I could never see you really doing based on the other stuff I've seen. But that's awesome that you want to have like a diverse sort of array of different films and different horror films. And I guess it sounds wild to me how like the adult horror stuff is what is bringing the most money because it sounds like the hardest to really market. But I mean, as you said earlier, it was such an organic trajectory for you getting into it that like it must have just seemed like this is probably the best way for me to go. I should keep kind of like walking forward this way. So,
Yeah, and it was more on the basis that I do like making those. Like I do like Tumbling Doll of Flesh and like Woman's Flesh and what is known as like the GSKD series, where it's like just theatrical blood play, needle play type stuff. Like I was looking for that when I was uh 19, and I remember being on group pages and people like, "Whoa, why are you asking for that crap? And that stuff is trash and da 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 da." And like I was into
mm,
those things, and now it's like everybody wants those and has those things, those movies, and like have found other things of like the Pain Gate, like which is like just torture porn, and stuff like that. And then I kind of like drifted somewhere else, like to the American side of that, or
okay.
like I don't want to always say like I'm not like I don't think I am a trend leader or anything like that. I just kind of like when this gets crowded, I tend to kind of like move over here where it's not crowded. So like exploitation
Yeah.
and like comedy and like biker movies and stuff like that. Like I'll jump to that when like, oh, everybody wants to do fetish and porn horror. Okay, like let me do like a comedy that has some like nudity in it, or like let me just do like a straight like
Yeah.
experimental film where I just point the camera at the dirt for an hour. Like I just like
Okay.
moving around
Yeah.
where it's not really occupied. But I keep coming back to adult horror because I'll get messages of like, I'll fund the film, but is it an adult film? And I'm like, is there adult aspects to it? And I'm like, nah, it's just a horror. And they're like, oh, let me know when you do like an adult one. And I'm like, okay. So it's
Oh,
like
okay.
I'll get that,
Interesting.
or like, yeah, talent and actors, they'll be down for pretty much everything. It's more of like, where does the funding come from? It's either my pocket or there's somebody very nice
Ah,
that wants to help shoot something, and it's usually what
Yeah.
genre they want to be in. It's not. I had to sometimes choose and pick. Um, like hopefully
Yeah.
there's a film I'm doing in April, and I was kind of given rules to write a script that it can't have this and it can't have too much of that. And I'm like, okay, I have a script for that. Like I can do that. And that's
Oh.
sort of where Man of Wolf and Let's Stop at the Morgue come in, where I was like, you can look at these that don't really have that,
Yeah.
and that's sort of the basis of using it. Like trying to get a job as a videographer out here in LA, it's very hard to like, oh, what reels do you have? Like, we can't really watch these at work. Like, and I'm going to send my boss,
Right, right.
like my future boss, these
Yeah.
films and say like that's how I work a camera. So that also helps to like have some content that I can share.
Right. Has it ever been kind of like almost like a wave situation where someone came to you with funding and said, I want these very specific fetishes included?
No, I don't do that. Like I won't cater
Cool.
to people when they do it. It's more of like I'm doing this film. This is the theme and the story of it, or like the idea of it, or just here's the title of it, and they'll just
Yeah.
kind of be like, is it adult or not? And then when it starts to get into like, well, I want this and I want that, I was like, well, then you can pay me to make that movie, but I'm not gonna like swap my
Yeah.
script up or my guideline up or tell the talent like we have to do this in order to like have the money or something like that, or I have to like get rid of you and find somebody. Like I don't. It's very much on my terms, and I have rejected
That's good.
money for that same fact of like I'm not gonna do your fetishes in this movie.
Hmm.
Like you can pay the girl to do that. Like I'll definitely give you the
Yeah.
email for her to do that if you want to pay her to do that, but not me.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Get her some money. Yeah. I know, yeah, that we have to keep it to an hour, so I just want to ask you one more question before the questionnaire, and I'm just curious, what film of yours would you say people have considered like your most disturbing, like the one that they would maybe put on like a list or something of like the harshest films?
Mm, I think it's toss up between, for sure, I would say number one is I Cut Your Flesh. That I've had people turn it off. I've had
Okay.
people, the dude who's my buddy who reviews all the movies, he still states that's like the one he can't get through. He had to like watch it in parts to do the review. I've had people buy
Wow.
it and they like it, but they couldn't finish it. Like, it's too direct. So that one, but as far as more film wise, as I Cut Your Flesh is a documentary, I would say it's either Love Dump or Disfigured Perception. Those are kind of the ones where it's like, whoa, you're really kind of pushing it here. Like you're kind of like,
Yeah.
I've seen like the end of Love Dump is very much an homage to a high tension just show. Like the I think
Oh,
it's the
okay.
opening of
Cool.
or the end of High Tension. I'm trying to remember where the trucker just kind of like finishes and throws the head off out of the window. I'm
It's the
like,
opening.
let's just
Yeah.
show that. Like, so I
Oh,
talked to
wow.
like James Bell who does a lot of my props. And I was like, can you make the hand
Cool.
usable? But I would say
Oh,
film
wow.
wise,
Okay.
either Love Dump or Disfigured Perception. Those ones are very
Okay.
meant to be disturbing and shocking and grotesque and all
Okay. Sweet. And I Cut Your Flesh
that. I
is
Cut
the
Your Flesh is
documentary.
documentary on a buddy of mine who I became a good friend of mine, Socks. She does a lot of blood play and needle play and has sewed things together that shouldn't be sewed together. She's been stapled. And I followed her for a year. And
Wow.
we always talk about
Okay.
shooting more, but like I'm like dude, you kind of push a lot of boundaries for people that can't tolerate that stuff. So,
Okay.
but I've like just sold out. Actually, I don't have any more copies. It's out and about now. It's out of print.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to find a way to watch that one. That sounds crazy.
I'll send you some.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we just have 10 minutes left, so I just want to get through the questionnaire, but is there anything else that you wanted to plug before we wrap up?
I mean, we're always funding by selling our films on SamHel.com, and I help other filmmakers. Um, sell their films that are not very extreme. Sometimes some of them are very extreme, but some of them are independent comedies or slashers or zombie films. And I put the Bizarre Theater releasing together to kind of do what I do with my films for other filmmakers, so they can somewhat get some money. So um, those two, if you want to help other
Mm.
filmmakers and have them do other films and other movies, Bizarre Theater, bizarretheater.com. I thought it was bizarretheaterreleasing.com, but it's bizarretheater.com. Uh,
Yeah, I'll
Blu-rays
have
are
the
there.
links in the descriptions and everything.
Yeah, that helps. That helps other filmmakers. For
Hmm.
me, SamHel.com always funds everything. We're screening Manowolf in LA on April 1st. No, not April 1st, April 11th.
Okay.
April 11th, we're screening Manowolf with two
Okay.
other shorts, Portrait of Payback and Never Finger Bang a Wendigo. It's a good title. Tickets
It's a
are
great
available.
title.
It is a good title.
Yeah.
Tickets are available
Yeah.
at samhel.com as well as all the Blu-rays and merch, and that helps fund more projects, which we're hoping to do. And then Baroque Film Fest in November, which is taking film submissions through Film Freeway. So, like you said, I don't really sleep. I
Okay,
just
cool.
continue
Yeah,
doing more and more stuff.
that's awesome. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
put all the links in and everything so people know where to find all this amazing stuff. So yeah, we'll just get to the questionnaire. I'll let you get on your way. All right,
Awesome.
what is one item you can't live without?
Physical item or just anything?
Uh, yeah, anything. Yeah, yeah.
I can't live without my family, my kids, or my wife and stuff like that. So I'll be nice.
Aw,
Physical item, probably a camera or something or a notebook.
okay. Yeah. It's I've had so many people on here, and no one said family or partner or anything or kids or anything. And so I think that's really lovely coming from you, like considering what we've been talking about. Like I think people will really enjoy hearing that. Like, wow, he's an amazing person. Okay.
I try to be. I have
um,
my demons like
yeah,
everybody
of
else,
course.
but I try to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. What was the last great movie you saw in theaters?
Uh, www.rachelormont.com.
Oh man, I want to see that so bad. But I think it played in Toronto where I am maybe a month or two ago, but I missed it. But I really want to see that. Yeah, it looks
I
great.
I think there's continuous screenings. I think I get make it figure out where they're doing another one with the director. I've tried to help him screen that movie more because it's just a unique what the fuck am I watching type film. And I've watched it twice. I just
Yeah.
watched it at USC again.
Oh wow. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye out for it. What was the last great concert you went to?
Beherit.
The Harrod? Okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool. I don't think I've heard them before. They're black metal.
They're like black metal, originally like raw black metal when they were younger, and then they became like an ambient project of like drone soundscape stuff that the main guy Marco what did, and then it kind of came back to black metal. So like when they were doing the show, it was just like their black metal with some ambient sounds, very electronic
Okay.
black metal.
Oh, okay. Huh. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the last great book you read?
What have I read? Um, Probably like, I don't know, I was reading some horror stuff before, so probably like some independent made book from some author, like maybe Playground. That was a messed up book.
Big
I read a lot of
Playground?
messed up stuff. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Something. It's something.
You got to
The
do it.
books I read are kind of like that, or very older books. Like, I have no idea. I'm blanking with books right now.
Okay, so for his final meal, John Wayne Gacy picked KFC chicken, shrimp, and strawberries. For your final meal before being executed, what would you pick?
Probably sushi.
Sushi?
Yeah, my wife's a big sushi person, and we kind of like that's our thing if we go out. And I just like it a lot now. Before it's like one of those things that I could stomach it before when I was like younger, and then now it's like a craving. So that or ramen, one of the two,
Mm.
or both.
So the interview I did yesterday was with new wave video, and they both said those answers: sushi and ramen.
Oh, then they're good people.
So it's popular stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Would you have anything to drink or for dessert?
I don't drink. Well, for like last meal, I'll probably have an energy drink because I always drink energy drinks.
Hmm.
And dessert, I like banana pudding.
Oh wow. Okay. What's that?
I've turned an adult leaf and start liking banana puddings and banana bread and stuff like that. So
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, that stuff's great.
uh,
Okay. So final question: can art go too far?
it can, but then it's more of illegal reasons, and you're kind of doing it for uh, doing your own thing. And I think you're trying to do something that is different than what we see already being pushed, and I think that's for a deliberate reason. So I believe art can go too far to it loses its point of art. Personally,
Okay.
um, I've seen people try to do a lot
Okay.
of stuff, and I'm like, you're doing that for not artistic reasons. You're doing that to do something else, and I think that's where art stops, and like the argument of perversion and hatred, violence starts to turn up a notch. Like this is not really fiction anymore. So I believe, yeah, art can be sidesteps, thinking it's art, and turning into something else that's more of a problematic thing. So yeah, I do believe art can go too far, especially when it becomes real. When you're leaving fiction behind. So
Mm.
uh, yeah, uh, there's a lot of stuff that I feel like is under the guise of art, and I'm like, yeah, nah, it's sort of doing that for your own personal things there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No, I totally agree. Cool, cool. Well, Sam, thank you so much. I know we got to wrap up here, but would love to have you back on. You've led like such a fascinating career so far. So I feel like I have like a million more questions I'd love to ask you. So yeah, if you can come back on in a year or so's time, that would be great.
yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm happy to do it. I like how a lot of the questions weren't my normal kind of spiel, so it's always fun to kind of think of something different. I do appreciate it. I do appreciate it. I've seen your podcast quite a bit going around, and I'm like, I don't think I'm that interesting for that. So, but apparently I'm that interesting.
You are, you are. Of course, of course. Okay, man. Thanks so much. I'll let you know when the episode's gonna come out.
You got it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description